In my last video, I had explained that a child does not grow up in isolation, and then there is actually a framework to help us understand this. This framework was developed by Urie Bronfenbrenner, a Russian American psychologist, and it is called the bioecological systems theory. And don't let the big words scare you. It's actually a very simple theory. Bronfenbrenner basically asked what are the different relationships and environments that shapes a child's development. And he organized them into four different layers with a time factor, making five. Now let's start with the layer closest to the child, the microsystem. Right, this is the layer the child interacts with directly. Think of their home, school, friends, family, their teachers, their parents. So if the child is being treated right at home, if their teachers are supportive, if they are being bullied in school, all of this matters, right? All of this put together is what the child experiences firsthand. Then we have the mesosystem. Now pay close attention. The mesosystem is the second layer, and this is basically what happens when the child's immediate environment interacts with one another. For example, the parents interact with the teachers. These two are both a part of the child's microsystem, their immediate world. But what happens when the teacher and the parents communicate? What happens when the parents attend a meeting with the child's teacher? What happens when the teacher notices something about the child and tries to work on it together with the parents? Now, that is the mesosystem. It is the relationships between the relationships around the child. Next, we have the exosystem. Now, this might sound complicated, but it's actually very simple. These are the things that affect the child, even though the child is not directly involved with them. For example, a parent's job. Now, imagine a parent who has terrible working hours, right? The child is not directly involved with the job, but the parents' working hours could affect how much time they get to spend with their child, who is available to pick the child up after school, whether they are available when the child needs them or not. So the workplace is part of the parent's world, but it can still affect the child's world. That is the exosystem. Then we move further out to the macro systems. These are the big stuffs. Think culture, think social norms, values, laws, political structures, economic conditions. All of these things are the macro systems. For example, what does society believe about children? What does it consider good parenting? How much does the government invest in education? What does the laws say about children's rights? What does culture expect from boys and girls? Now, these things might not involve the child directly, but they create the environment in which the other systems operate. And finally, we have the chronos system. Now, this one is a time factor because none of these systems are frozen in place. Families change, children grow, parents change job, governments change policies, schools change, culture changes, and even major events like the pandemic, divorces, migration, even economic changes can change the environment that a child grows up in. So the Chronos system reminds us that childhood is happening over time. And here's why this framework is very useful. Bronfenbrenner allows us to ask what is happening around this child instead of what is wrong with this child, because sometimes the behavior you see in a child is connected to what is happening in their environment. And that changes how we think about helping children, because if development happens across all of these different systems, then supporting a child cannot always mean working on the child alone. So in the next videos, we are going to be talking about one more important factor and what happens when we actually use this framework to look at a real child. See you in the next video. Bye.